Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Gardener's Question Time. I'm Tony O'Neill and this is Simplified Gardening, where I show you how to garden in a simpler way. I hope that you all had a great day. Let me know in the comments below if you can hear me, because I've had a few technical issues and I just need to know that we're able to hear me before I continue. Excellent. Right. Okay, guys. So now I know that you can hear me. There's a lot to talk about today. We've got loads of questions that have come in previous via videos and email, and I'm going to make more of a concerted effort to answer a lot more of the live questions. So this is what I'm going to need you to do today. If you've got a question for me, in order for me to see it and make it easier, can you put the question in all caps, please? And that way it will make life much easier for me in order to spot it and be able to answer it. Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, but the ones that I don't, I will try and make a note of, like I have here for the last one, and we'll get them sorted on the next live stream. So let's have a look who's in tonight. So we've got Monty from My Family Garden. We got Bob in. Hiya, Bob. Siggy Haw 999's in. Kimmy's in. ACS is in. Rob. Hiya, Rob. Hiya, Tom. So we've got quite a few of you in here tonight, guys. And I've got a little bit of news tonight. And we're also going to draw out for this thing here, which is the SF2000 from Spider Farmer. We did the video review on it a little while back, and I said I would draw it in November, and that is going to get drawn live tonight. So if you had your name down for that, then that'll be great. We'll draw that and you're in with a chance of winning that, and it doesn't matter where you are, I will send it. And the great thing about those lights is, because of the Meanwell driver that's in them, they are able to work on any voltage from 110 right the way up to 240. All you need to do is take that plug off and add your plug for your country in it, so it doesn't matter where you are, really. Okay, let's have a little look then, see if we've got anything in the comments here. So we've got Sonia from Southern Florida, Brian, hiya, Nicholas is in, Dean's from Lost the Plots in, Jamla Yang, sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. Oh, thanks very much, Monty, for the super sticker. Really appreciate that. Anne Callaghan is here. CW's in. Michael's in. Ella. Michael Ottman is in. Amber Sky's in. Linda Hardwick's in. So there's really loads of you in here tonight. So as I've said, guys, for anybody who haven't heard already, if you've got a question for me, put it in all caps, and I'll do my best to answer it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with a couple of questions that I've got here, and then we'll come back to the chat. So Cynthia Jordan asked, what is Hessian in American terms? She Googled it and all she could find was jute fabric. Hessian is basically burlap sacks. So it's basically like a jute material, but Americans know it as burlap. So if you can get those made into sacks, then that's what Hessians are. And this question related down to the storage of potatoes. Hiya, Pam, Carolyn, Anya, Mark, Chris, Stephen, Teresa, LP, and James. Welcome all to the chat, guys. I've mentioned a few things and we'll go through them all again. But again, if you've got questions, put it all in caps, okay? So one of the things I wanted to mention today is that in the last live stream, I was talking about that I was going to release another channel called Simplified Gardening Shorts. That channel is now up and running. And let me just do this. And as you can see, we have quite a lot of videos on there already. I think it's something like 48 or 49 videos on here already. And the idea behind this channel, guys, is 1 minute tips. And it will help you get along to get an answer quickly. If I can't be here, or you haven't got time to watch a 10-minute video, then you can look through there or press search in the search bar. Let me go back to that and show you where that search bar is. So up here, you can click on the search bar and type in what you're looking for. Now, the good thing about that is that if you're just looking for something on carrots, then you can do that. Mike, thank you very much for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. And what I'll do, guys, I'm going to put a link for that shorts channel. Let's have a look here. In the chat. And if you aren't already subscribed, come along and subscribe to that channel as well, because initially I was putting on 3 videos a day, then 2 videos for the next week, and then I stepped it down to 1 video a day. Eventually it'll drop to probably maybe 3 or 4 videos a week. But the idea is to get a good catalog there of like 1 minute answers, you know, where you can just really get a nitty gritty. So very similar to what we're doing here with this program, but instead of you having to watch a long thing, you can get it really short there. So let's have a look at some of the chat here a moment. Okay, so Stephen Luna, been watching Ultimate Polytunnel series, love it. Do you need scaffolding pipes, or will 4x4 be sufficient? Right, Stephen, the issue you've got with a lot of polytunnels, especially like when they're the size of mine, 34 feet by 14 feet, you know, they act like a kite, a massive wind sail. So you really need them anchored. I mean, you guys have seen recently that a small greenhouse that's been on my plot that isn't anchored down because it was on part of the plot I took over, that's just got absolutely trashed. I put it back up and it's got mullered again. And the purpose of the scaffolding posts is they anchor everything in. They are the bones, if you like, of your polytunnel. So without them, you know, you could possibly do it out of timber, but of course timber rots. The great thing about the scaffolding poles is they're not going to rot. They'll rust over years. But bearing in mind, this tunnel's probably been up now for 8 years, maybe in total. So you know, you're keeping all the wood up off the ground. I'd really suggest, Stephen, that you if you can get hold of them scaffolding poles, then that's what I would do. Let's scroll down a little bit. I want to thank Mike for his super sticker. Really appreciate that. And there was another one, I think, here from Muthin earlier on, and I want to thank him as well. So let's have a look, see if I've missed anything. Teresa Fennell is wishing that my family and myself are well, and we're all really good, thank you. I had vertigo again very recently, guys, and God, it's just such a horrible thing to have. But I'm back up and running now, so that's good. Okay, so we got Laurie here. How do you know if potatoes are determinate or non-determinate? Okay, so with your potatoes, we know that the determinate potatoes, they grow on one level, and the non-determinate grow on multiple levels up the stem. Think of it this way. So your first earlies and your second earlies, or the potatoes that have a shorter growing season, things like salad potatoes, they tend to be determinate potatoes. And main crop potatoes, things that you're looking for, you know, for mashed potato chips, bigs and things like that, well, you want bigger potatoes with them, and they tend to grow and be indeterminate potatoes because they grow up the stems. That's the easiest way. So if you're looking for determinate and indeterminate and it doesn't say on the packet, think of them as first and second earlies or short growing season potatoes as opposed to long growing or main crop potatoes. The main crop would be the indeterminates. I hope that answered it for you, Laurie. Okay. Thanks, Dean. I appreciate it that you're glad I'm feeling better. So am I, mate. Okay. So Stephanie, hi Tony, hope you're well. Could you advise RE compost, please? Struggling to make. Right, Stephanie, I've got a really detailed video on understanding compost. It's I don't know if someone's able to go to my channel and find that. It's called the composting process, composting methods, something like that. Put that into Google search and post the link. Now, that video will break it down completely for you so that you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's really in depth. Now, once you understand that process, then you're able to go on and then sort of make it easier on yourself. But you really need to understand the basics first. And that's a little hard to explain here. But essentially, you need 4 ingredients. You need greens, browns, air and water, and it needs to be in the right mixtures. So if you've got a space, sort of 15 minutes, go across and have a look at that video. It really will help you understand it properly. Okay, let's scroll down and have a look what else we've got here. Okay, Mark, I have a fig tree at the allotment, approximately 10 years old, which generates figs, but they don't seem to ripen. They fall off, and the insides are all white. Any ideas? Yeah, I'm having the same issue because my 3 figs are outside, and fig trees, they like to be relatively warm through the winter. If you can grow it inside in a tunnel or something like that, it'll do much better. The frost tends to kill off the small buds because a fig will produce a bud this year for fruiting next year, and they're like very tiny little figs in the that'll grow on the stem, and that is what's going to produce your fig next year, and then it'll also produce smaller ones for the year after. The issue you have is that the frost is damaging those, so that when they grow, they will never ripen on the plant because they can't stay longer term. And it isn't helping that we're having such poor weather as well. We've had an atrocious year for weather. Yeah, we've had a couple of weeks that were really hot, and the rest of it's just been really poor up and down. So if you can stabilize the temperature a little bit by putting it in a polytunnel or a greenhouse or conservatory, then that will really help you take them through to maturity. Okay, so where was that, Mark? I've lost where you are now because the page just jumped. There you are. Okay. You're welcome, Laurie. James. Research peat and peat plants do not produce oxygen. Right. Okay. I've missed something there. Sorry, James. I don't know if that was a question for me or a statement for someone else. Okay. Stephanie Fritchley, hi again. Sorry, my question. RE compost came in installments, but thanks for answering the first part. I can make compost okay, just not enough of it. Ah, right, okay. So the biggest issue for people, especially if you've got a huge garden like I've got, is creating enough compost. Now, if you're not prepared to buy it in, which I buy in lots of compost anyway, because to me, it's an investment in my garden. By bringing that in, then I know I'm going to get the crops out and it feeds my family. But if you're not prepared to buy it, there are other things you can do. You can speak to your neighbors, okay, and ask them to keep their grass clippings and things like that. The only issue you have there is that you may have weed seed in it because they may have a lawn full of dandelions, you just don't know. But if you're composting right, then most of the seed will have died off anyway. And if you're doing your gardening properly and hoeing off weed seed as it germinates, then it's never an issue. So things like grass clipping, hedge clippings, things like that. Our council, we have a pickup day for all of this stuff. You could just go around to all your neighbours and ask them if you can have it, and just dump it in the back of the car and take it up the plot. And you can make 3, 4, 5 ton of compost in a couple of weeks like that. Wood chips, again, for a carbon source, they'll come from any tree surgeon, and they're more than happy to give them to you, because they have to pay to dispose of it. So more often than not, they're happy to deliver them right to your plot for you. And especially now as well, things like leaves. Everybody should be out collecting leaves and things like that at the moment, because that's another major resource that you should be using for your compost. But don't forget to keep your things at home. You can collect coffee grounds from coffee shops, and you can ask your neighbours for their potato peelings and kitchen scraps, things like that. And if you know anyone with chickens, ask them for the bedding, or even pigeons, things like that. It'll all compost down, because it's all organic matter. Okay. Let's have a look here. Plants that deter cats. So that's come from Siggy Hall 999. Plants that deter cats. Well, there are various plants that are not very good for cats, but to really deter them, you're looking, the biggest issue you got is, like, you can buy things like catnip and stuff, and cats end up just loving it anyway. You have a real issue. The only thing I'll say, they don't like spiky things because their fur gets caught into it. So it really depends on what you're looking for. As far as edibles go, there aren't any. They're more than happy to trample them and mess in your beds as if it's a litter tray. On my website, there is a really long article about cats and plants, so that might be worth having a look at. But off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that's really going to deter them. They don't like really strong smelling things. I've noticed that mint and things like that, rosemary and things, the herb side of stuff, they tend to stay away from a bit. Okay, where am I? So Laurie's saying, do you know that vertigo is a symptom? Yes, Laurie. I had an infection, and it caused the crystals in my inner ear to dislodge, and they take quite some time. I'm doing a lot of stretches and stuff, and I was even put onto CBD oil to reduce the swelling, and that worked really well after a couple of days of taking it. And so I am aware that it came on for me after I had an infection. So hopefully there's nothing else going on there. The doctor seems to think it was just down to that. Okay. So James Tucker's asking if you can change the genetics of seed. Yes, you can, James. We do it all the time when you consider giant vegetables, okay? And you can do it with anything else as well. But it's a long-term process. So you would literally breed one genetic part into another. As far as seed goes, you would keep those seeds. And if those seeds are viable and you can reproduce those from the original seed, so in other words, they come true to what you believe, it's like a 7-year process to be able to make sure that that strain that you're creating is actually genetically viable. But essentially, you're cross-pollinating, and you're then raising the following seed that originates from that cross-pollination to see if it actually produces the variety of plant that you're after, and then you breed that with itself, and you look to see if that seed has kept that genetics in the next sort of genesis, if you like, of the plant's life. So once you've done it once, you do it again and see if it's mutated, and if it hasn't, you do it again, and you do that for about 6 or 7 years to see if that seed is viable and those genetics don't revert. And that's the issue you have with things like F1 varieties. If you plant an F1 seed, you'll never get what it was originally. It'll always revert back to one of the original parents that they were bred against. Okay. Let's have a look. So I've lost where I am now, guys. Sorry. So Monty is saying that a load of friends or neighbours dropped off 6 bags of leaves and are really full of twigs. Now, Monty's got some great videos on making compost really quick. So if you are looking to make it really quick, then get across to Monty's channel and have a look, because he's done a fantastic job with making those. And this year, when compost was really short, people couldn't buy it, Monty came out with a video showing people how to make it really quickly, and that video did very well for Monty, and it's because it was good content. Okay, so JL500, what are the best grow lights for a hoop house? Depends what you're looking to do. If you've got like a big hoop house, then you need to be careful in supplying the right sort of amount of light, because you're going to have to be able to lower the lights right down, because if you were having them 6 feet in the air, the likelihood is that you aren't going to benefit from them. But like I said, I really like these Spider Farmer lights, and we did a test review on it on this SF2000 a couple of weeks ago, and the ratings came out pretty much very close to what Spider Farmer were quoting. And I've got to say, the lights are in our grow room here, and they're doing fantastic for the plants. Bearing in mind, there's no windows in that grow room, and everything's artificial, and those Spider Farmer lights are absolutely ruling the place. They really are good. And like I said, we are going to draw the winner of this one, and I will get that out to whoever wins it. Okay, let's turn that one off. So I'm going to just jump to the book a moment. So I got a question from Comments Corner. Is it recommended to leave bags of leaves inside or outside? You're better off leaving them outside. It doesn't matter if they get rained on or anything like that, as long as there's a couple of holes to drain it, but they need to be outside for that moisture. The mycelium, because it's a fungal domination leaf mold, it's not bacterial like compost. So the fungal spores that will be on the leaves anyway need that moisture, and if you take them inside, invariably you're going to forget about them. They're going to dry out, and it's never going to break down for you, because all that mycelium is just going to die off. So keep them outside, stick them behind a shed or something like that out of the way, and just forget about them. It's not like compost where you've got to turn it and water it and everything else. Just stick them there and forget about them. Okay. So Rob from Leicester is saying, one thing about collecting leaves, make sure no dog poo in them. Yeah, it's we all know all the pathogens that are in dog and cat feces, and if you can keep that out of it, all the better. When you're raking them up, just be mindful what you're raking up. It takes 2 more seconds to check an area over before you start raking. And it can save you a bit of work as well, trying to get it out later. So Green Sides Up's just joined us. Welcome to the chat. If you've got a question, put it in all caps for me, please, guys. And I'm more than happy to try and get through to them. Okay, so Mark asks, why does comfrey tea smell so bad? Because it's so good. Basically, anything that's rotting down is exactly the same thing with nettle tea and everything else. Yeah, as it's rotting down, it's going to smell. But if it smells bad, it's good for your garden and you can use it. The only thing I would say is, if you are growing house plants, don't use it in your house. Go and buy a liquid feed or something like that. But for outside, it's fantastic stuff. Comfrey is an accumulator, so they drag up all the nutrients out of the ground from really deep down that most plants are not even touching. And because they're dragging that up and putting in their leaves, and then you're making a tea or a drench or whatever you're making out of it, then they'll do that. But because of all these minerals and nutrients, here's a different way to think about it. If you, Christmas Day, you go and have a really big Christmas lunch, yeah, and on there you've got cabbage, broccoli, collie, and sprouts. And at the end of it, you know, you're smelling just as bad as the comfrey is. So it's because of all the nutrients and things like that that these accumulators are pulling up from deep in the ground. And when they rot down, it does stink a bit, but it's more than worth it, Mark. Okay, let's have a look what else we got here. Okay, so Listener Joy is, my garlic is growing. Should I trim the green back to discourage growth? Zone 5. No, leave it as it is. Okay, garlic is really tolerant of the frost, the cold. Even if it snows on top of it, it will bounce straight back once it warms up. All right, so don't worry about the tops. And even if the garlic loses the top itself because of one reason or another, it will just reshoot in the spring. What is the reason that you plant garlic in the autumn isn't to get lots of top growth. Ideally, you want to get maybe an inch top growth poking through before they go a little bit dormant. But what it's doing is it's sending down a good root system. But more importantly, it's getting that 30 days of vernalization that it needs. Because if it doesn't get those 30 to 60 days of really cold weather, the bulb itself doesn't split into cloves. So that's why we tend to plant in the autumn or the fall rather than in the spring. But you can plant garlic all the way from, I still haven't planted mine, by the way. You can plant garlic all the way from September right the way through to March. So don't worry about it. If anything happens to them, they will just reshoot in the spring. Okay, so back to the book. Eleanor Ortiz asks why you only use 2 seed potatoes in such a big container. Okay, Eleanor, so earlier on we were speaking about indeterminate and determinate potatoes. Now, determinate potatoes, which I mainly grow because that's what feeds us all through the winter and well into next year when I'm harvesting next year's potatoes. Those potatoes are the ones that you can store really well, and they get bigger, so they have a lot more, they're a lot more useful as a crop. But because they get bigger and the plants are more robust, if you were to put 4 potatoes in, you'd cram too many into a pot and they wouldn't have enough room and resources in order to provide you a good yield. By limiting it to just 2 potatoes, there's enough feed, enough soil and everything else. I mean, you've seen some of the containers I've emptied. They've been chock-a-block with potatoes, and I know a lot of other gardeners are doing it as well. You know, absolutely chock-a-block with just 2 seed potatoes. There's no point in putting any more in. So that's Eleanor's answered. Okay, let's get back to the chat here. James is saying THC works better. Yeah, James, but I'd probably be sacked too. Okay, let's have a look. Teresa, you're welcome for your reply. Okay. Right, okay. Okay, so we've got this question. I'm going to answer it. Right, guys. We're not talking about when we're talking about changing seed and things like that. We're talking within creating new seed. So breeding one variety of apple with another variety of apple. You can't cross-pollinate an apple and a pear and things like this. It doesn't work. So don't misunderstand what I was saying there. Unfortunately, some people are taking that to the extreme. Okay. So Rose is asking, my comfrey plant has 6 leaves. Will it survive winter? Yes, Rose. Comfrey is really, really strong plant. Okay. Even is it in the ground? I'm not sure. If it's in the ground, they will rot back right to the surface. You'll lose all the leaves. It will still regrow in the spring from the roots it's at. And I've even had some in pots that have dried out completely in the greenhouse over winter, and in the spring I've watered them and they've just come straight back. The roots are really thick and fibrous, and they hold a lot of energy in there, so they even just like a 1-inch piece of root will reshoot. That's why comfrey can become invasive if you use any variety other than Bocking 14, because that's a sterile variety. Okay. So Malk is asking, is compost a fertilizer or is it a soil-like material used as a growing medium? Right. Compost is not a fertilizer. It's an organic matter. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused. Fertilizers, they are put in the ground to feed your plants because your ground has no nutrition in it. Composts, they hold nutrition, but it's not where the bulk of the food comes from. The compost is in the ground. It aids in drainage, but more importantly, it holds the fertilizers. It acts like a sponge. And those fertilizers come from all the organisms, the microorganisms and things like this, the nematodes and what have you, and the worms, all the soil life, basically all going in and using that compost as a food source. Because of that, they generate heat, they breed, and while they're breeding, they're eating each other, killing each other and eating each other, and they're feeding and they're passing out the excrement out the back end, and that's what your fertilizer is. The compost helps to feed those and absorb those nutrients to make it available for the plants. Okay, so don't look at compost as a fertilizer, although it will contain loads of micronutrients and nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus. It will contain lots of that, but that is used up very quickly by plants. But it's the ongoing soil life that actually continues feeding into that compost, and it becomes food for them. And that's where the secret is with compost, guys. Okay, who have we got here now? Yeah, Monty, I understand, mate. What I'll do next time, I'll add you as an admin thing. I don't know how to do. I don't know if I can do it here. No, I'll add you as an admin, and you can help me sort of monitor next time. Let's have a look what else we got. Hey Tony, glad you can make it, mate. Oh, you've got a question here as well. So Tony from A Little Farmer's Farm, fantastic channel, guys. Really upbeat guy. He's done some fantastic builds on his channel, like the Tiki Hut. So if you haven't seen Tony, get across to his channel and have a look. So Tony's asking, have you ever tried the rhubarb leaf insecticide and how does it do? Yes. And for me, it's one of those gardening myths, mate. It doesn't do that well at all. There are much better organic ways of doing it, and if you don't want to buy it, then stick to like the soap solutions, the Castile soap, things like that. They work much better than the rhubarb does. It's a bit of a waste of time. However, rhubarb is also another accumulator. Okay, so you could use those leaves and make a rhubarb feed. All right. Okay, let's have a look what else we got here. So Eleanor Mann, hi Tony, my bare root strawberries today Is it okay to plant out in large containers in the UK? If not, what's the best approach? Nights are 10 degrees, expected first frost next week. Ellen, I don't know if you've got somewhere inside. If you've got somewhere inside, pot them up and leave them inside over the winter just because they're bare rooted. It's not going to hurt them to plant them out. You can do that if you haven't got that. Or you could also plant them and put them against a north-facing or north-facing wall, which will help shield them a little bit. You know, up against the wall, it'll stop that frost getting to them, and they'll be a bit more protected. But if you have got a greenhouse or something like that, or a little hoop tunnel, or you know, a cloche, something that you can put them over, that'd be better. If not, plant them out and put a layer of leaves over the top of them, and that'll help them as well. All right, just to allow them to establish a little bit. Hiya, Brian. Welcome to the live stream. Hi, Jennifer. Guys, help me out with the chat. If you've got a question, please put it in all caps for me, okay? So Tina Jones is asking, is aquaponics worth it or not? It depends what you want. Aquaponics is a really good way of growing, and you get a crop of fish out of it as well. Well, that's sort of the weird thing about aquaponics is that because you're not using soil and you're using clay pebbles, I always find that you get a lot of growth quick, so it's ideal for leafy plants. And I have seen people growing cherry tomatoes and things like that, and cucumbers with them. But for me, it's more of a lettuce sort of style growing. You know, you can grow lettuce 3 times faster in aquaponics than you could in the ground. It's really good for leafy stuff because it's all nitrogen based. And if you're not using fish and you're going down the hydroponics, then you're using a lot of chemicals to feed. And I'm a little bit against using chemicals because I'm organic. But the aquaponics with fish, no problem at all. You know, I would only use it for leafy growth stuff though, where, you know, you're going to find it difficult with other crops. Hiya, Glyn, I've just seen you in the chat. Okay, what we got here? Oh, Linda, thank you very much for your live chat donation. I really appreciate that. So Linda has said, thanks for sharing your gardening knowledge. Why do my carrot tips split? It looks as if it has 2 legs. Numerous reasons for it. Mainly, there's too much nitrogen in the soil. But if you've got rocky soil or anything like that, and the tip of that carrot hits that stone or a twig or whatever it is in the soil, it will split. A lot of people will say that you shouldn't put carrots into beds that have just been composted or manured because it's too rich for them. I've actually disproven that theory because I've grown them. I've grown really good carrots directly in cow manure, so that really goes against that. But you know, I think it's probably a little bit of overfeeding and soil prep. So try and sift out some of the stone and stuff like that out of the soil, or grow them in containers like the buckets that we use for the potatoes, and grow them in sharp sand and compost. That works really well. Okay, and thank you for the super chat as well. Let's have a look what we got else. Okay, and Callaghan, when is the best time to sow rhubarb seed, or am I too late? No, you're not too late. I would sow it sort of early spring now, sort of end of February would be a really good time. It'll get them going just in time for you to get them out in early sort of March to mid-March, and you know, as little plug plants, and they'll take off. Obviously, you're not going to be harvesting from those plants for maybe a year or two then. But rhubarb's really good. Once it gets established, it will thrive. I mean, the rhubarb I put on photos, and if you go back through some of the videos, you'll see how big it was this year. And that was moved twice in the last 3 years. So, you know, I literally cut off all the roots. So it's just had this little chunk of root that comes with rhubarb, and in it went, and it went again. You know, but with seed, it's going to take a little while, but it's very similar. You get them going, get a little plug plant and put it out in early March, and it'll be fine. Okay, so let's have a look what else we got here. Linda, now you know you can use it as a fertilizer. Hi, Kenny. Glad to have you here. And Jane is here as well. Hiya, Jane. I've lost you now. I don't know where you just disappeared to. Oh, La, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I didn't see that come through. I've just spotted it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let me see. Right, I'm missing some of these things. The chat is jumping about, you guys. So Dean has asked, I'm looking at solar and can get away and can get 10 watt, 12 volt trickle solar panel with charge unit for £25. Would this be worth it for lights in the shed? No. They are all right if you're going to put a light on just to switch it on, go in, get something and come out of there. They're okay for that. You really need a minimum 100 watts. If you're running the lights, I think you're going to be running, mate, you know, like, you know, the Spider Farmer type things, then you're going to need at least 200 watts and a bank of batteries as well. Now, if you look at my solar in the shed video, I set up a 200 watt system on that with 2 batteries. They're 133 amp hours each, so it's 266 amp hours. They would probably run those lights just, you know, tidy. But you've got to consider that you're asking a lot out of the solar at the worst time of year because there's not so much light levels. So you need a bigger system in which to be able to store the energy that is coming in. And then you use that energy store. A 10 watt light would be ideal for just putting on a shed, just to put a single light in it, just so you can go in and out and get stuff when you need it and stuff like that, Dean, all right? Okay. Wendy Zhang, I'm sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. Thanks for sharing the gardening knowledge. I token all my figs done by taking some advice if I'll get figs next year. Again, we spoke about figs earlier on, so it's just a case of trying to keep those buds from freezing, and that'll prevent them dropping off. Wendy, I don't get what you're asking here, but if you want to put that in a different way so I understand it, that'll be cool. David Wilson, where did you get your potato growing bins from? The containers, I'll drop a link for you now, David. They come from Oakland Gardens in the UK. If you're anywhere else, there's nowhere in the US selling them at the moment. I am looking into being able to drop ship those. I found a manufacturer of them, and I'm looking at seeing whether or not I can drop ship them directly into Amazon.com for you guys, so that you can order them direct from Amazon. Now, that's going to take some time to do and arrange, but so many people have been nagging me for those containers out in the States that it's something I've been looking at. If I can make it happen, because I've got to buy them like 5,000 a unit, so there's a big outlay to go, and I've got to also look at all the Amazon side of things as well. So bear with me. If you're in the States, I am trying to sort that out. Okay. So Pauline Morris, what's the best water lily for wildlife pond? It's 8 foot by 6 foot and has an area of 2 foot deep. For that, I would look at some sort of dwarf lily. There's one called amethyst, really, really good. And the reason being is lilies, they can be pretty sort of boisterous in a pond. They will outgrow a relatively small pond. The one, I don't know if you've seen on my pond, that is amethyst. It's really, really good. It's a dwarf lily, but the leaves come up to about this size. So it's ideal for covering some of the surface, you know? So try that. Excuse me. Sorry about that, guys. I've been sawing some of the table here and it's created a load of dust in here. Right, okay. Let's have a look here. Okay, is that a question? Okay, so Dean, I have a Wi-Fi unit for my security IP cameras, which needs constant battery. I'm using two 20,000 milliamp power banks, which last 4 days each. I want a system in place for the solar with battery. Yes, mate. I mean, you can pick up 100-watt panel for, it's not far, about 90 quid, I think, on Amazon. Go to my Amazon store. So go to amazon.co.uk or amazon.com/simplify gardening and click on the 12-volt section on there, and you'll see all the products that I've used. It's got the all of the measurements for the 100 watts and things like that, and the batteries. Now, the 100-watt panel will probably give you enough juice, if you like, to charge the batteries, but you need a good size battery. It's no point getting, sort of being cheap and getting like 60 milliamp amp hour batteries. You need to be looking at 133s at least, and get a couple of them. I've never run out of power at the plot, but I'm only running LEDs up there at the moment. However, I'm going to be looking at doing a lot more off of that, including I've got an inverter that I run off it, so I run some tools and things like that. I still haven't run out of power with those. It is a really good system, and I'm going to be looking at running a pond pump off it very shortly for a waterfall and all sorts of stuff. I haven't exhausted it yet, but I'm going to push it to see how far I have to go, and if I need to, then I'll upgrade the actual system itself. Okay, so let's get back to the book here at the moment. So DJ Simon Ross Price asks, I have a small patio garden. Where's Dean's? Let's turn that off. I have a small patio garden and want to grow potatoes in pots. Could I use scaffolding and place another row above the first row? Yes and no. If they're in the middle of your garden on your small patio and you're getting light from both sides, then you could do that. If they're up against the wall, you're only going to get light from one side. All the back side of the plant is going to die because you're stopping the light from above. So what I would suggest you do, if you're going to do that, is make sure they're in the middle of the garden and then build a shelf across the top of them. That way, at least then they're getting light from the sides right around. Ideally, I would probably grow less potatoes because it's going to affect your crop anyway, and just grow a single row of potatoes, but grow them really well, and you probably get just as good a crop. Okay, so that's that one. And we'll have another one while I'm here. Sandy Costa asks, why do I cover my face in some videos? Okay, so there's about 20 videos on the channel that have a blurred face in them, and it's not my face, it's Brian's face. Now, when the channel had 5,000 subscribers, or just when the channel had 3,000 subscribers, I took one of my admin from my Facebook group on as an additional presenter, and he presented about 20 videos before he moved on to do other things that he decided he wanted to do. Because he took a job in the customs, customs contacted me and asked if I would blur out his, originally they asked me to remove the videos, but I said no, and they asked me then to blur out his face in order to protect him and his family, which I was happy to do. So there's about 20 videos on the channel out of the 450 odd videos that have a blurred face in them, but I've left them up because some of the information is still valuable for people. Okay. Right, so where am I now? Hiya, Jane. Thank you very much. Yes, Dean, you need a 100-watt solar panel, mate. That's going to be the only way, at least 100 watt, okay? Okay, let's have a look here. So Jacob Griffin, I loved your potato watering video. Question, how do I protect my potatoes from very heavy rain? To be honest with you, you can't. Now, in the watering video and the harvesting video, I showed you the cow mesh that was there to support the tops of the potatoes. Now, the issue you have with heavy rain and winds is it batters those tops down, so they end up sprawling like a vine, because essentially that's what they are. But and the potatoes will be fine like that, but you're much better keeping that foliage up. And the cow mesh or the cow wire that I used was fantastic for doing that. It kept the whole thing in as one grid. And because the wire was up around the leaf top area, as the rain was hitting them, it wasn't actually it wasn't bashing the leaves down because the wire was supporting them. That's really the only way, unless you're growing them in containers and you can take them into a polytunnel or a greenhouse or conservatory, something like that, or a shed or garage, that you can pull them in there while that storm is happening. Okay. Right, sorry, I've just had to block someone. Okay. Right, so Steve has asked, can I use shredded paper as a mulch for potato pots? Yes, you can, Steve. Shredded paper will work really well. It will mat. And so just be mindful that the water, if it mats, that the water is going through it and not just shedding to the side of the pot and running down the outside of the pot. So every now and then you're going to need to stick your finger through that paper and check the moisture content of the soil below, so that you're not thinking you're putting plenty of water on, it's just all being shed. With the rapeseed straw that I use, that just goes straight through that straw. Even though it looks like it mats, the water just percolates right through it. So, but yeah, you can use shredded paper, but just be mindful that you need to test that for moisture in the soil below. Rob, don't worry about James. I've just blocked him from the chat, so so that's sorted. Okay, so Little Farmer's Farm. Tony, cheers, brother. Solar setup that you got off me helped. Still going strong. Excellent. So, Dean, yeah, Tony, when I first done my solar thing, we spoke at great length, and Tony ended up buying a solar system for his as well, and it's still going well for him. And while I'm at it, thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Thanks again for all your answers, and it's helped you out. And Dean, I'm more than happy, mate, to talk with you on the phone if you need it. You know where I am. Just let me know. Okay, where am I going here? So Tony's asked, what is your favorite French climbing bean to grow? Thinking of trying some new varieties. I really like Cobra, and I've tried so many different varieties of French climbing beans over the years, but I keep going back to Cobra. They're prolific, they give a great bean, and the seed is really, really good. It lasts a long time. So I've still got seed from 5 years ago, and I did a germination test on it a couple of weeks back, and it was 100% germination, and they're 5-year-old seed. They're fantastic. And again, you can eat the seed as well. So Cobra's really good. I'm also liking the yin yang beans instead of climbers because they're a dwarf, French dwarf. And if you're looking at runner beans, I really like Stenner. They are really good. Okay. So Deadly saying, can we hit the thumbs up? I think that's a really good question, guys. I think you should all be hitting that thumbs up for me. Right, okay. So let's see what we got. So Tom Sykes, let's have a look here. Hi, my greenhouse has gravel on the floor and I've made some beds to grow in that are going to be 2 bricks high. Do I need to remove the gravel before I fill it with soil? Absolutely not. The gravel will act, as drainage for your beds, and any roots are going to grow through it into the soil structure below anyway. So don't worry about the gravel unless you're looking to put things like comfreys and stuff in there where you might get a bit of air pruning. So, but the gravel itself won't be an issue. And if they're 2 bricks high, you're going to have a deep enough bed for most crops that you're going to grow in the greenhouse anyway. If you're worried about it, dig it out. But 2.5 bricks, 3 bricks, whatever it is, you're going to have, consider a tomato grow bag when it's laying down and you've watered it, it gets to about 4 or 5 inches, the depth of 1 brick. So, you'll be fine. And they can also spread out as well. So you'll be okay. Okay. So Donna, is a click and grow system worth buying as a starter to do grow lights as a beginner? With the grow lights, it's really important to understand what Kelvin they are coming out at and what light is being emitted. Okay, so ideally you're looking around anything from 3.5 to 7,000 on the Kelvin range would be a good thing. But if you're looking for fruit and veg, you need the red, blue, or what they call them, purple or purple. Okay, and these will help with photosynthesis and also provide the infrared light that's required. So it really, without knowing the actual unit itself, it would really depend. If they're just using white light, they may not be good enough, but you need to see what the Kelvin range is. Donna, if you want to post a comment to me in this video later on when it goes live with a link to the system, I'll take a look at it and I'll give you my opinion on them. Okay. One thing I will say, guys, this the live streams from before, I've lost subscribers every single live stream I've done. So if you can give a thumbs up and things like that, that'll be fantastic, because I'm doing the live streams. Obviously, I don't want to be losing subscribers, but I like the interaction that I have with you while I'm here. Okay, so Science 102, love your videos. Do I need to grow avocados in full sun, or will it just grow slower in the shade? They need the sun. You need to get them out in the sun, and if possible, you need to keep them out of frost. So I don't know where you live, Science, but here I keep all of mine in the greenhouse. That's not to say that there aren't microclimates in colder climates like the UK where you can grow them, because there's a 30-foot tree in London that has tons of fruit on it every single year, and it's just in a front garden of somebody's. So they will grow well here and they will fruit in the UK. If you're abroad and it's warm, like the US, and it's warm pretty much all year, great, just get them out there, but keep them in the sun. They need it to ripen the fruit. Okay. Why did I just jump? Okay, so before we go on, guys, I just want to talk about a couple of things. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the oh, why not working? Bear with me 1 second. It seems that it doesn't want to work. Right, okay. Sorry about that. So I just want to thank everybody while we're all in. As most of you know by now, I hit 200,000 subscribers, and I had the certificates here and some fireworks and stuff that I was going to play. Cheesy, I know, but it didn't work for some reason. So the screen sharing thing didn't grab it. But I just really want to thank you all, because it's such a massive thing for me. You know, we all know that subscribers is a vanity metric, but to me, it's a sign that I'm doing something right. It allows me to look at the direction I'm going and whether or not a given direction is right. Because if I'm still gaining subscribers, then I know that I must be doing something right, because people are still coming on. And this year has been crazy. On April 15th this year, we celebrated this 100,000 subscribers. And the reason I know it was April 15th is because it's payday for me. So, but that was, and then 7 months and 2 days later, we hit 200,000. So we just doubled it. Now, it's really strange, because for me to hit the first 100,000, it took 8.5 years. So it's crazy to think that I'd done the second 100,000 in 7 months. Now, what I will say is that is thanks to all of you guys for liking, sharing, commenting, and everything else around my videos. I really do appreciate it. I know Tina and the kids appreciate it as well, because what it's enabled us to do is to build this online network, and part of that online network is the Simplified Gardening website, and this is where I'm writing my blog posts. And again, they're answering questions. So now we have the 1-minute answers as far as the Simplified Gardening Shorts channel, which I've put a link in the description. I'll do that again in a moment. And we've got the website here again, answering questions. Does leaf mulch stop weeds? Do raised beds have a bottom? You know, all of these things. And these are really in-depth articles. And there is about 65 full-length articles on there at the moment. And I've written another 60 plus to go on there. I just need to finish editing them so that I can make them live and add in the photos and things like that. So if you haven't seen that website, go across. I'll put a link in the description. Go across and have a look at it, and it will help you get another version of information, so that if you can't get hold of me in the comments, I'm really struggling with comments. I'm answering as many as I can, and I know, I mean, I'm getting thousands and thousands of comments a week, and now I see what bigger YouTubes are saying when they can't answer everything. I'm really doing my best to answer them. I'm spending hours and hours, and if I don't answer, this is why I'm wanting to do the lives with you guys, because I'm trying to answer some of them that I've not got around to in the lives as well. So it's just another way for me to be able to do that. And the link again for the short channel, guys, so that's the 1-minute videos, is coming up as well. So if you haven't already, I'd really like it if you'd go across and support me by subscribing to that channel also. And all the videos are on there are all under 1 minute, so it's just 1-minute tips. Okay. Let's have a look what else we got. Okay, Square Deal Tot. Hi Tony, apart from dog, cat poo, is there any other poo to avoid using in the garden? Yeah, any animal that's a meat eater. Okay, so if it's vegetarians, and I'll strike that, because there are some meat eaters that can, like chickens. Okay, but the reason there's a different that it's all processed different via the chicken. So but invariably meat eaters like cats, dogs, you know, things like that, if you're feeding things like ferrets, chicken and stuff, stay away from that sort of manures. Okay, so you're looking for the herbivore manures: horse, cow, you know, llama, rabbit, pigeon, chicken, things like that can all be composted down. All right. Okay, I just spotted this one. Don't forget, guys, put your questions in caps, okay? My question is it easy to propagate fern cuttings? I want to prune my plants. I was wondering if I can give the cuttings away. Fern is really robust, so but they do much better with a root division, so or a root cutting. So like comfrey, like Bocking 14 with comfrey, if you wanted to divide that, you would need to do it by root division. So you'd either split the plant and divide the plant, or you would literally cut off a root and then cut that up into sections, and you can do the exact same thing with ferns. Let's have a look what else we got here. So Monty, have you grown dragon tongue beans? I've had great results with them in the last few years. No, Monty, but if you want to send me some seed, I'll have a go this year for you, and I'll let you know what I think of them, because I've not even seen the seed available. Okay, I think it's about time we drew this unit here. It's a big, heavy, chunky unit, and I'm going to pay for the postage no matter where it goes, guys. So I will post that. And the reason I did this was because Spider Farmer didn't want to post all over the place. So I said, send me the light and I will upfront the postage for you guys. So it doesn't, and that was because I wanted to involve everybody in this giveaway, okay? So what are we going to do for that? Right, let's get Dean's thing off. Right, okay. So this is the back end. This is YouTube Studio for those of you that don't know what YouTube is, okay? Or what the studio is. And this is where all your videos are stored, and you can control monetization and things like that with it. This is the video here, the supplement video. What I've got is a TubeBuddy. I don't know if any of you know what TubeBuddy is. TubeBuddy allows you to do SEO and things on your videos. So if there's any other creators out there who are not sure, in fact, I will give you a link. So I've got some links here. If you need TubeBuddy, there's a link here, and you can have that free of charge in the chat. Obviously, it's an affiliate link. So if you do end up going on a paid plan, I'll get a small kickback, all right? But you can just use the free version. Anyway, so this here, this TubeBuddy allows us to click on the video itself. And what it will do, it will pull a winner. So if you see here, you can pick a winner. So what we're going to do is click this, and what it will do, it'll pull up a box. It'll ask us if we want to input any words, which is what I'm going to do in a moment. And it will pick a winner out of, what's going on here? I've done something wrong here, hang on. It will pick a winner out of the comment section. Here we are, okay. And the word that we need to put in there is marshmallow, because that's what you had to find in the competition. So this will now go to that video. It will pick a random person out of the video, and the winner is Scott Levine. And as you can see, he says marshmallow is on the top of the light at 4:26, which is correct. So Scott Levine, you need to get hold of me, and once you get hold of me, I will get your details and your address, and I will ship this off to you. As I've already explained, wherever you are in the world, the mean well driver on this light will cover voltages from 110 right the way through to 240. All you need to do is take the plug that's on there off and put yours on, and it will work fine. Now, bearing in mind, we've got Christmas coming up. Depending on where you are in the world, Scott, I don't know, will depend on how long it's going to take this to get to you. So please bear with it. But once you've given me your details, I will get that off to you. But congratulations to you for winning the Spider Farmer SF2000 light. Now, if Scott doesn't come back to me within 4 weeks, guys, I'm going to redraw this and it will go off to somebody else, okay? So it's up to Scott to view this and come back to me with his address. I can't go chasing people because, number one, I don't know who he is, but also I don't want to be having to chase and say, oh, you've won, I need your address, and this, that, and the other, okay? Right, okay, so let's get back to a question on here. Number 6, where can I buy the planting buckets? This is from Mr. Lottin 333. We've already spoken about this earlier on in the video. They come from Oakland Gardens. The link was in the comments as well for you. And I've already explained, if you're in the States, I'm going to try and drop ship to Amazon eventually. And I will also be looking at it for Australia as well, because we've got a lot of people from there asking too. This one come from Gino Driscoll. What is the red variety of potatoes you grow? I grow quite a few different varieties of potatoes that are red. The first one, and the one I grow the most of, is Sapo Mira, and that is a really good all-rounder main crop potato. The next one I grow mainly so we can use for roast potatoes and jacket potatoes because it's fantastic, and that's a variety called Rudolph. And there's only one supplier I know at the moment. Actually, there's 2 suppliers I know at the moment. One is Marshall's and the other is JBA seed potatoes. So, you know, they are, I've not seen them available in America. The third variety I grow is a variety called Condor. And that variety is, I use that for show. And there's another variety I grow called Satanta, but I haven't grown that for the last few years. But those are the 4 main varieties that I grow as far as reds go. Okay, let's have a look in the chat to see who's here now. So guys, tell me in the chat below, are you enjoying this sort of live format on my channel? Is this something you want to see more of, or are you just more interested in the video side of content? Let me know below. And just to give me an idea if I'm on the right track. So look. So Michael's asking, can we grow green tea in the UK? The answer is yes. Loads of people have grown it. I mean, the likelihood of you growing enough to supply you with tea is another thing, because you're only ever cutting the tips off the bush. But it can be grown here, and quite successfully too, yeah. So Brian's saying the format's going well. Pam is enjoying the format. That's good. Hiya, Terry. Nice to see you dropping in, mate. Guys, Terry's got a great channel. You should check him out as well. He is recently done a collaboration with a very good friend of mine, which is Liz from By the Farm, and that's all with regards around comfrey, which is a topic we've spoken about today. So check that out. Right. So let's have a look what we got. So we've covered that, and that. We've drawn the light. What's the time? Wow, it's 7:15, so we've been doing this for an hour and a quarter, guys. So we're going to check out now to see if there's anybody else with any questions. I've got one or two more on the pad. So if you've got any more questions before we end this, guys, put them in the comments and we'll try and get to them. I got a couple more. I got 3 more on the pad, so I'm going to answer these. So Susan McNally asked, what do I do to prevent blight? The biggest cause of blight is poor air circulation. So you really need to give more spacing in your plants and keep a good airflow between them. That firstly keeps the leaves dry. The other thing then is watering. So if you can mulch around your plants to prevent water splashing up out of the soil, splashing those blight spores up onto leaves, that's a really good practice and can help. And removing the leaves, the lower leaves of whether it's tomatoes or potatoes, if you remove those lower leaves, it's less likely for blight spores to go up as well. Now, if there's blight about, you can get blight-resistant varieties. But airflow is the king here. Okay, both sides of me of my garden, the guy on either side of me, both had blight this year and quite bad, and I didn't have it. And that's because my tunnel, as you've seen with all the windows in it, it just blows a gale right through there, and it's really good airflow. And I'm leaving a lot of room between plants and tomatoes. I'm leaving 2 feet between them, and that allows good air circulation to get through there and dry those leaves off. The other thing you can do as well is water in the morning instead of the evening. By watering in the morning, that has a chance to go down into the soil, but also all the leaves and the surface of the soil dry off so that the humidity disappears, and that can help as well. Okay. And Lewis John has asked, I got given some raspberry plants. How do I know if they're summer or autumn? Okay, the only real way to do this, you've got a couple of ways actually. You can plant them all and then cut them right back to the ground, but you won't get any fruit this year. Okay, and if you cut them all right to the ground and they pop up and you don't get any fruit, then they're autumn. If you get fruit this year, then they are summer. Okay, the correction, they're autumn if you get fruit, they're summer if you don't. Okay, but the other option, if you don't want to cut them, is to plant them, and if the stems that are on them, the canes that are there now, produce fruit this year, then those canes are from last year and therefore they are summer varieties. Okay, if they don't produce, if the canes that you've got on them at the moment don't produce fruit, it means they've already fruited, and they're autumn varieties, and new canes will come up in fruit. So if you notice a new cane fruiting but not the old ones, then they're autumn variety. It's a little bit of play with it, to be honest with you. And the last question I've got on my book here, what soil or medium do you use in your containers? And that comes from Shagufta Ahmed. Right. This year I used all homemade compost, and every single container I grew in was all homemade compost, and that worked really well. I'm not afraid of buying compost. Like I've said to you, is probably one of the best investments you'll make in your garden. Compost is king as far as I'm concerned. Feeding that ground is really important. It builds the structure and everything else. But yeah, compost is what I'm using. I did do an experiment this year. I filmed the earlier part of it, but I never got around to filming the ending, which was to do with potatoes. So I'm going to repeat that experiment, and that is about lots of different mediums for growing potatoes in. So stay tuned for that next year. Okay, let's just check. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just checking something a moment. Okay. Right. So who was just asking this there? Amazing Autist asked, what plants can I grow in clay soil? There's loads of different plants for that. And I'm going to put a link now in the comments of a blog post I wrote on that very subject at the at my website that I spoke to you about earlier on. So get across there and have a read of that. It covers pretty much what you can do with your clay soil, what you can grow in it, how you can improve it, and everything else. Okay, it's quite a big subject, that. So so take a look at that blog post. Okay, I planted carrots a few weeks ago. They have their first leaves. Will they become carrots? Depends where you planted them, Andy. If you planted them outside, the likelihood is no. They're going to sit still now till spring. They're not going to do a lot. You may get some very tiny little carrots on them, and then in spring they'll take off. You'll get an early crop. If you planted them sort of end of October, September, maybe, you would probably got a small crop out of them by now. But like I said, they'll sit through winter if they're in a tunnel. If they're outside, the likelihood is they'll probably keel over and die. Okay, I think we are not far from it. Eleanor, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Funny enough, Eleanor, I sent a message over to Scott telling him that I'm going live. And for the rest of you on here as well, I'm going to put a link in the chat for Gardener Scott's channel. Get across to his channel, because I did invite him to pop in and we'd have a chat, but obviously he's busy. But on Monday, I am going to be dropping into his live chat. I'm probably not going to stay live all the way through it with him, but I am going to drop in there and have a chat with Scott live on his channel. So if you want to see that, it'll be on Monday. I forget the time, but it's usually around about 5-6 o'clock at evening GMT, and I think maybe 12ish around his time, I think. So if Eleanor, if you're going to watch Gardener Scott's Monday live chat, I will be on there, so keep an eye out for me there. And thank you once again for the live chat. I really appreciate that. Let's have a look here. My allotment diary, evening. Welcome to the chat. You come in right at the end, but you'll always have the live play that you can to grow. MH2, you're looking for to growing avocados. I've got 2 really big videos on this. In fact, let me see if I can get a link for you off them. And I mean, one of these videos has had over 900,000 views, which is this one. So just bear with me 1 second. Let me just get the link for you. And these will give you everything you need to know about growing them. That's your first one. And your second one is an update on that. So basically, every question that was asked by people in that first one, I went and made a video and answered that second one. Okay, so if you watch these 2 videos, because it's a big subject again, you will know everything that you need to know for being able to grow avocado. Okay, and that's from right away from seed right away through to fruiting. Andy Pollard, what's that? They're in the conservatory. I'll let you know if I get anything. Just an experiment. What have I missed the beginning part of that, Andy? Sorry. Oh, the carrots. Sorry, Andy. Yeah, yeah. If they're in a conservatory, it might be warm enough for them to actually get a crop out of them. So you might be lucky. Okay. So Kay's asking, she's got 3,000 litres of leaves, which have a temperature of 37 degrees. Will this be finished leaf mold in 6 months? Did you shred those leaves, Kay? If you didn't, no, it won't be. Shredding the leaves not only produces even more heat than that, you probably initially get it up to around 50 degrees Celsius, I should imagine, in the first day or two, and then it'll subside, and then all the fungal domination will take over, okay? Now, initially, it will get hot, but leaf mold doesn't need to be hot like compost anyway, okay? Because once it cools down, you don't want to get it hot again because you need that fungi to get in there and do its thing. But as long as you shredded them in the beginning, they should be broken down enough to use as leaf mold, whether or not you're using it as a surface mulch or top dressing or using it in a leaf compost mix, a seed starter mix. It should be fine enough for that at that point. All right. Again, I've got 3 or 4 videos on leaf mold. Just type in leaf mold into YouTube search bar and you will find my videos, and they're usually in the top 3, and you'll be able to see those, and I talk you through it step by step. Okay. Kimmy, Tony, if my favorite avocados are 2 feet high in raised bed, can I dig them up without damaging the roots to transplant to a new area? Yes, wait for them to go more dormant though. If they still got lots of green leaves on them, wait for them to sort of like go dormant and stop the new growth, and then you can transplant it. But when you do that, try and take a good sized root ball with them. The less you can disturb the root growth, the less you're going to set them back, Kimmy, all right? I'm glad you're loving the channel, MH. Yeah, Brian, that is a valid point, and but if it's in a conservatory, the fact is that they can control the lighting a little bit. So, but yeah, that is a valid point. Carrots can think that that they've gone through winter and will go to seed afterwards. But it's very similar with a lot of plants. If you let them go through winter, so. Tony, I'm overwintering chili plants. Good on you, Pam. Wood sweet peppers also overwinter. Thanks. They will, but they don't overwinter as easy as the hots. Hots do really well overwintering. However, in fact, in my first year, I think one of my very first videos in 2000 that I started doing after I deleted all the other ones, I started again in 2012. I think it was July 2012. I did a video on overwintering chilies, but if you just give me 1 second. A few years ago, Pam, I chatted with Dorset Chili Company, and we had them to write a blog post. Now, I've just put a link in the comments section for you. There's a blog post there on a step-by-step guide on how to overwinter your chilies without any additional heat, without taking them inside or anything. So if you can't do any of that, that blog post will help you in order to protect those chilies and put them dormant. So rather than them still growing, make them dormant, and then you can kick them back off in January or February just to get them going again, all right? But check that one out. Hiya, Dolly. Great to have you join the chat. And I think I'm catching most people today. If I haven't, let me know in the comments if I haven't shouted you out when you came in, or I haven't answered one of your questions, just so I know you're here. Science 102, how do you know when to transfer a plant from a cup to a bucket? Right. The smaller the plug plant on transfer, the quicker it's going to re-establish and the stronger that plant will be overall. If you're leaving the plant get really big in the nursery pot or the plug plant or whatever the case is, then the harder time it's going to have. That's when you usually see them wilting. So if you can keep the plugs nice and small and get them out into their place or into the big container or wherever they're going to go, their final growing spot, the earlier you can do that, the better. Before they're getting like 2 or 3 sets of leaves, you want to, once they got their first 1 or 2 really true leaves, get them out if you can. That's the best time. Okay, so look what else we got. I've got some questions, but they're hiding from me. So Pam is saying she's growers in the front window. They were doing well, but slowing down. And that's fine, Pam, because you consider they're up against the window. Windows are cold places, yeah. You might not think it when the sun is on them, but in the winter, especially, you may notice you might get, if the windows aren't sealed very well or they're older units, they get a bit of condensation on them, and that's where the warm air of the room is hitting that cold glass, and those chilies were feeling it. You may be better to pull them back from that window a little bit into the room if you can, and that'll give them a little bit more warmth. But it's not a problem if they slow down, and you may get a little bit of dieback where the branches start rotting back a little bit, but just keep cutting them back to a node and they will be fine. Right. Oh, Dolly's just come up with a question. How do we plan and organize our seeds starting for next year? Right. With all of the lockdowns that are still happening, and I know America are not having them at the moment, but all of England's in them, and Wales has just come out of ours. There's already talks of us going back into lockdown in January as another fire break. Now, what you are going to find, I'm going to tell everybody the same here. This year, people struggled to get compost, they struggled to get seeds, they struggled to get anything to do with gardening. My suggestion to you all would be to order your seeds now and get those sorted out, and order your compost now and let it sit in the shed or whatever, the polytunnel, the greenhouse. Just leave it sit there. It doesn't cost you anything, it's not costing you any food sitting there, right? But you have it in order to be able to grow next year. Because I tell you now, what's going to happen if we end up in these lockdowns is everybody's going to be, right, I'm going to go and do my garden, because that's the only thing they can do. So they're going to order all of the compost and the seeds and everything else. You won't be able to get it again. And as far as sorting them out, Dolly, what I would suggest you do is break your seeds down into months that you can sow. Now, I'm going to be doing a video on this very shortly anyway. But basically, organizing your seeds, you break them down into every single month. And if seeds need to be successionally sowed, what you do is you put that in the first month that you can grow. So say you can grow lettuce in February, for argument's sake, okay? Once you've sown that and you want to grow it again 8 weeks later, well, you jump that then into April's folder, yeah? And then again into, August folder, yeah? So you just need to be a little bit switched on with it. But if you've got them all set up in individual months, you know exactly where you are. Right, I'm going to take February's this month. This is everything I need to sow this month. Get out and sow it. Anything that needs to move on for successional sowing, move that on into the next folder. And then the rest of those seeds, like the tomatoes, once you've sown them, the chilies, things like that, well, they can go by then, ready for next year, or passed on to other people, yeah? Okay. Hi, Gary. Hi, Emma. Hello, Fraser. Hey, Michael. Great to have you here. Hi, Rhonda Moffat. And we've got a question of Stephen Williams. Can you plant straight into manure, and what plants can you plant in it? Depends on the manure. When most people get manure from a farm or stables, it's not rotted down enough, okay? You need to continue rotting it down. Now, normally I've had my delivery of manure for the garden. I've got 20 tons sat there in a massive pile in the hole that one of the sheds created. And it's just sat there in a huge pile, rotting down. And I will be using that to fill the hole, and I'll be growing directly in that. Now, it's no good putting things like, you know, that don't need lots of feed. I tell you what will do well in it, though. Things like squashes, pumpkins, marrows, courgettes, all the cubit family will do really well directly in manure to start it off. But it does need composting first. You can't just plant straight into raw manure because it'll burn the roots, okay? But there's so much. And like I said, I'm going to be filling this hole that the shed has created with it. And it's rotting down now. I will plant in my marrows, pumpkins, and things like that in it this year coming. And then next year, I can plant anything I like in it. Okay, veg shows, flower shows, etc. Giant veg, what's your thoughts? I've done them. Malvern, really, really good show. If you love anything to do with gardening, Malvern is a must, okay? The spring one is fantastic for the garden side of things, and the autumn Malvern show is really good for the giant veg and for the gardens as well. Now, on my channel, if you go to the playlist section, a few years ago, when we had 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers, I'd done quite a few of those shows and did some videos there. Done the RHS in Cardiff, done Malvern a few times. We did Wisley and a few other of the bigs. Hampton Court. We've done the organic food festival. So we've done quite a few of those shows. So have a look through that playlist and you'll see that. Giant veg, I love growing it. I grow it every year. Giant cabbage, marrows, cucumbers. I'm still trying for a giant potato, and eventually I'll get there. But yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But for me, it just pushes your growing boundaries a little bit. It's like a test to see if you really understand, because to grow something large, you need to understand what that plant needs to grow, and of course you need viable genetic seed for that. Okay, will you do microgreens this winter? No, I am holding off on the growing this year, guys, on the winter. In fact, I haven't even got my garlic in yet. And the reason being is I've got green manure in, but as far as microgreens for eating, it's a no, because I want to take down the rest of those sheds, and I'm going to make an adaptation to my existing shed. I'm going to move the door because I got some rotting plywood on the one side where the window was leaking, and it got in between the ply and damaged the ply. So I have to take that window out. I'm going to move the door to that side because that's where the new shed is also going to be, so I can come from one into the other. And then I'm going to wrap the whole shed as well. So because I'm going to be trampling all over the garden and storing stuff in the polytunnels and stuff like that, I've decided not to grow anything until spring. Okay. Tom Sykes, hi. I have a topsoil and compost mix that I brought in for my greenhouse beds. Also have homemade compost. Do I mix this with the topsoil or lay the homemade compost just on the top layer? Yeah, no need to mix it. If you've got a compost soil mix, just chuck that in and throw the compost on the top and allow the worms to take it down for you. A couple of inches, ideal on the top of it. And it will also act as a cap as well from to stop evaporation, because compost will absorb moisture and hold it, whereas soil will release it to the air. Will you be doing more videos on bees and chickens if you still keep them? Stephen, we got rid of the chickens when I came over to the new garden 5 years ago. We will be getting them back, but not just yet, because I am looking at eventually buying a small holding. It's not going to happen for another year or two, but what I don't want to do is bring birds into this place because we're limited in the amounts and everything else. So I've stuck off of the birds. As far as the bees go, those videos never did very well on the channel, and because they didn't do well on the channel, the next videos then the next gardening video wasn't promoted out to my audience, and I had people telling me, well, I wasn't even told about this video. So I've decided I will be doing the bee videos, and it's going to go on a brand new channel that is set up. It's going to be called beekeepingbasics.com. All right, and you'll find that channel, and we will start next year with videos directly on there. Don't worry about remembering that. I'll give you all the details closer to the time once we start with the bees. Hi Tony, is it time to Jerusalem artichokes? Carol, time to do what with Jerusalem artichokes? To harvest them, plant them? Because you can do either now, okay? In fact, I just lifted a load of Jerusalem artichokes. The bed that they were put in as a temporary measure. So I want to get them all out of there now, but also we put a load of manure on there at the time, and I didn't check it, and it had bindweed in it. So now I've got bindweed growing through all that bed. So I've got to literally dig it over to get as much of that bindweed out as I can before I start no dig on that section of the garden. So, but yeah, if you've got tubers, you can plant them now, or you can store them in damp compost or damp sand in a bucket in a shed. And if you check out my last video, which was on Jerusalem artichokes, I show you how to do that, and then you can plant them in early spring as well. All right, but they will do fine if you plant them now. They will overwinter in the ground, and they will just shoot off in spring for you. Day all day, thank you very much for the super chat, really appreciate that. Is it possible to grow cherries indoors? Thanks for all you do. Yes, it is. They do much better outdoors though, because there's stone fruit and they like the cooler weather. If you put them in a polytunnel, you probably find that in the early spring they will fly, and then they'll probably drop their fruit unless you can keep it cool. I have seen them grown in greenhouses and things, but there's been lots and lots of ventilation. You probably be much better having them outside, and also they'll get pollinated better, so you'll get a better crop. I planted 3 cherries in front of the sweet peas this year, so over the next few years they should really go up and do really well. Okay, thank you for your super chat as well. Right, Sean, should I be worried about cat manure in the beds I grow vegetables in? Yes, all manures that come from meat eaters carry pathogens. So if you can, stop the cats using it as a litter tray and dig it out. Don't dig it in, okay? Because those pathogens can make you really ill. The likelihood is it's not going to pass through into your food, but obviously in the meanwhile, you're literally growing in there. If you don't wash your vegetables, then it can be passed through to you, but also you're putting your hands in there as well. All right, so I would suggest if you can, remove it and try and prevent the cats from messing in there. And a kid's water pistol is all you need. It's not going to hurt the cat, it's going to stress it a little bit, but if you can catch it with a little water pistol, that cat will never come back near your beds again. Hi Tony, right, what's this one? I'm sad, I've just lost 3 fig cuttings. Where did I go wrong? Figs are notorious for drying out Carol. So when you plant them, they really need like a dome over the top and high humidity. And you're better off if you can give them a lot of bottom heat. So if you can put them on a propagation tray with a heat pad, something like that, to start them until they root. But moisture loss via evaporation is your biggest issue. So cover them over, even if it's a plastic bag over a pot or whatever the case being, just to keep that moisture in until they throw their first leaves and get some roots set down. Okay, I found a dead bird in my carrot bed. I didn't bother eating them after that. Well, look, you can pretty much compost anything, and animals are not a problem. All right. The worst case scenario you're going to have there is some maggots are going to end up on the bird and end up in your soil, but it's not going to do any damage to your vegetables at all. In fact, it's probably just piled a load of nitrogen into your soil if it was decomposing, it won't carry all the pathogens like manures would. So Pam asked, do garlic chives die back in winter? Not really, Pam. They will reduce, and the leaves will sort of shrivel in, but they don't die back completely, unless you've had a really, really heavy frost. And I'm talking like months on end. You should still be seeing green growth most of the year with them. Yeah, you're not going to have to worry about pathogens on that. Okay. I mean, when you consider, you can just put a dead chicken into your compost bin if you wanted, and everything would end up composting down. The reason that we say not to do that is because it would attract vermin, and that's the only reason. It's not that couldn't be composted or anything like that. And in fact, municipal waste compost, so green waste compost, will have all sorts of stuff composted in it, including things like rats and stuff like that, because they will make nests in the compost pile and then it's chucked straight through a shredder, so they've gone through it as well. And, so I wouldn't worry too much about things like that. Just the manures you need to really think about, all right? Right, so what are we at now? We're at an hour and 46 minutes, guys. I think that's about it. I'm going to get home and have some time with Tina. I really want to thank you all for helping me to achieve 200,000 subscribers. It's totally made my year, because I set a little target on April 15th when we hit 100,000. Someone said to me, oh, you need a new goal now. And I set a new target of 200,000 by the end of the year, or by Christmas of this year. And I publicly announced that I wanted to do 200,000 by Christmas in a group that's all about creators. And I pretty much got laughed out of that group. And all I want to say is, it doesn't matter who you are. If you've got a goal, just do what it needs to be able to get you to that goal. Put the effort in, learn more, and do this and the other. But I couldn't have done it without all of you guys, because you've been fantastic in supporting the channel. I really appreciate everything you do. And the t-shirts you buy from the merch shelf, and the PayPal donations that you send and things like that all goes to helping support you, support me in making content for you guys, and I do really appreciate that. So anyway, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this live stream. I've enjoyed chatting with you, and this time I've managed to actually get set up so that I can see the comments and get through answering most of them for you. And if I haven't, like I said, put them in the comments below this video when it goes live, and I will write them down for the next one. And like we have with these ones, and I'll do the same thing in the next live chat, and we will answer them for you, so they will get answered. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you again. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.